Hello. Welcome to today's session. I'm Lindsay Walton, and I will be your facilitator extraordinaire for today. I am so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that you have set this time aside for yourself, and we are going to start carving out this space for you. This is self-care time. This is time that you are putting the oxygen mask on for yourself, self-care, making sure you have the resources you need to be able to take care of other people. So if anybody came here today feeling selfish or feeling like, oh my goodness, I have all these other responsibilities and nope, this is your space. It's a greenhouse. The rest of the world gets to wait outside while you grow, while you get fostered, while you have resources sent your way today. So first of all, we're making sure that as best as possible, if we're able, doors are closed. We're making sure that things like ringers on phones are turned off, that they're face down so flashy lights aren't grabbing our attention. We're taking a look at, have we informed people, please do not disturb me during this time, emergencies only. Are you able to turn off notifications on your email? All the different things that could try to say, please pay attention to me. We're going to try and quiet those, put some boundaries around them because boundaries are incredibly healthy. That's one of the most beautiful things that you can do for yourself is say, these are the things that are allowed in my space right now. These are the things that are not allowed in my space right now. And with that flexibility for the fact that life throws curveballs, that's okay. We're going to run with whatever happens in this space today. And so, with that in mind, as we carve out the space, take ownership and say, this is my time, now we're going to prepare our bodies and our brains for the things that we're going to be talking about today. So let's make sure that there's a calm space here for you to be able to live in. You live here, this is your space, so let's make sure it's as comfortable a place to be as possible. We're going to try and calm it a bit by recognizing how busy or scattered or foggy do I feel today? Does it feel like there's a cotton ball in between your ears instead of a brain? Does it feel like everything's racing? Do you feel like you're kind of outside yourself a bit? A very common experience if you've just spent a lot of time doom scrolling, you've been on the internet, anything hive mind for whatever reason, we just sort of start to often dissociate, feel outside of ourselves rather than right. This is me and this is where I am. Whatever sensation you have, we're going to try and bring you back to yourself. Be present, be here in this moment. We're going to do that by breathing. You have to breathe anyways. Breathing is just such a beautiful tool for being able to help you get back to that space of focus, presence, and being able to grow intentionally. That's a beautiful thing. You get a lot more outcomes faster when you are present. So we're just going to breathe. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice it's not rushed. You may have noticed that just because you're busy, because you're stressed. When you're stressed, your body is often trying to get more oxygen to your muscles, preparing you for action. And so you might have realized, I sound like I just went up, the stairs. I sound like I just ran a marathon and all I did was walk into the room and sit down. Why am I out of breath? We're going to slow your breathing. Be intentional about it. If you feel like you are suffocating, you're not getting enough air, it's okay. You don't have to, push yourself to the point of discomfort. You're simply working on calming your body, slowing your breathing, and making sure that you're breathing down into your diaphragm. So the diaphragm is the muscle underneath your lungs, and professional singers, professional orators, somebody who's on the stage to project, to make their voice carry, to have the important things that they have to say, make it to the people that they want to receive the message. They breathe in deep down into the body, and the mental imagery they use is to breathe down into the stomach. That is anatomically incorrect. You do not breathe air into your stomach. If you do, that's where burps come from. So don't do that. What you're going to do instead is breathe in deeply into the body, pushing your stomach out, and it's just creating this beautiful space and this imagery of filling with air so that you can then breathe out. And for anybody here, as you're breathing in, continue breathing, but now breathe deep into the body, get that oxygen. Push that air out. Know that every time you focus on breathing deeply into your body like that, you are also giving yourself the air that you need to project. So right now, even as I'm speaking to a laptop camera, what I have is projection going on. I'm pushing from my stomach when the air comes out. So, anybody who's feeling like your voice tends to come out timidly when you try to express your wants or your needs, you're not taken seriously. It's possible that you are breathing from up here and everything kind of comes out with a lack of intention. So, it comes out very soft and it sounds like you're almost asking a question of whether or not can you please meet my needs. I have a want that's really important to me. Do you hear how my voice has changed? So if I push from underneath, that's very different from speaking from my chest, which doesn't have anywhere near as much gravitas. This from below is where gravitas comes from. My needs matter, my wants matter. I'm going to speak from that place. And so you can actually be warming up that part of your body here in this self-care time, preparing to speak and say what you want and need, expressing expectations and boundaries. Get that breathing going here in this space. Now, another thing that we're going to do, if you have any kind of timepiece around you, for anybody here who is navigating trauma and specifically post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, you are experiencing something where your brain has an injury. You've navigated something that was incredibly distressing. Often there was an element of having felt trapped in it in some way, shape, or form. It exceeded your sense of your resources to be able to navigate it at that time. Your brain can take the timestamp off of events like that. And so we can have an overlapping taking place of you are here in this space in the present, but there's a whole bunch of other things that are trying to say that they're happening right now too. So for some of you, that might be a single event, the car accident that you were in, the assault that took place. It's still trying to imprint in the present. The timestamp is off of it, so your brain's feeling a bit confused. What is happening right now? This and this. For other people, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, you could have an incredible number of events. My fingers cannot, contain how many events are trying to imprint on the present and say we are all happening right now. And that can cause an incredible amount of stress, an incredible amount of vigilance, an incredible amount of anxiety. So one of the things that we can do to say, no, this space is for the present and help our brains start to put those things back into the timeline where they belong. That's not happening right now. That happened 20 years ago. That's not happening right now. That one happened yesterday. Okay. Whenever the thing was, we can help to heal our brains and get those things back in the timeline where they belong, getting us to the present here and helping us to be here by doing something as simple as looking at a timepiece and or a calendar and being able to say, this is today's date. If you remember the date of an event that tries to say I'm happening right now, you realize as we're spending time together here that you're picturing the car accident. As soon as you realize that that's happening, any contextual information that you can give to that event, know that happened in 2003. Note that happened on August 19th, 2019. If you have the date, that's wonderful. If you have the year, that's really helpful. That's still incredibly, incredibly helpful. Even if you don't know those things, but you can say that was in my childhood, that was in my teen years, that happened sometime last year. It's okay to have a more vague picture. You're still giving your brain context. And I'll just highlight for you a tool that I use. So I will share more at different points in time, but just so you know, I myself am navigating recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I won some sort of existential lottery. So there are a number of deeply distressing traumatic events that I have survived. I don't know why I ended up with a collection of things that I have from having shared close quarters with somebody whose behavior was terrifying to having survived a 72 car pileup to having been 8.5 months pregnant when my house was being torn apart around me by a tornado. And that is the short list. If anybody out there knows I've survived a lot of things and I don't know why these things keep happening to me, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. So one of the tools that has been incredibly helpful for me in my recovery, especially when I realized, right, I have a lot of events that have the timestamp off of them, having a watch that has the date on it. Just being able to go, I'm realizing I'm becoming elevated. I've been triggered in some way. An event is trying to say it's happening right now. And no, I recognize that's from a while ago. That's not in the present. Then being able to look at the date is an incredibly powerful tool for you. And I'm not going to say the date just because some of you are accessing this session by going to the video archive, and I do not want to throw off your process by saying in this video what the date is when it's being recorded. So I'm looking at my watch, it has the date on it. I'm able to say to myself, today is, and this is the month, this is the day, this is the year, this is the time, this is the present, and it helps everything else to sort of just be gently pushed out of that space. If you've ever had oil on top of water, and you've put a little drop of soap in it, you can try that. It's a fun, basic science experiment. Put some oil on the water. If that is all the memories, all trying to crowd into the surface and into that center point, the now, what you can do is water, put some oil on top, it'll cover the whole top, and then put a tiny drop of soap and boom, and it just displaces and we see everything just move out away from that spot. Knowing the date, knowing what time it is now can be so helpful for opening up space. This is the present. Now I can function. Now I can focus. I have improved that. And I'm not asking all those other things to get shoved into a box. That's not healthy either. A lot of us are carrying boxes. Some of your boxes are just kind of see-through and on the shelf. You can take them down when you're ready. You just don't want to do that. And, you take it down when you're ready and have the space. Some of us have boxes that are packed down and locked down and taped up and shoved into the darkest corner. We don't have to open that box here today. We're just acknowledging the existence of said box and that's very human to have that box. Okay. So what I want you to know is just that when we carve out space for the present, I want to be in the present. We're not shoving all that other stuff down. We're not packing it up and putting it in the darkest corner we can. We are simply going, no, there's space for those things too. I'm going to work on those things. I'm going to acknowledge those things. They have a place in my life. And when I integrate them into my life, I'm going to be healthier for it. That's going to be a beautiful thing. But to be able to do that process, I need space for the present. That's what we're doing here. So, what day is it today? What month is it? What year is it? What time is it? Be here in the present. And what we're going to be doing here today in the present is we're going to be taking a look at a transformative tool. We're going to focus on discovering or exploring your shape. And so, a huge part. So, what are we here for? This is a transformative mental health and well-being learning transformation space where we're trying to understand better what is it that I'm going through? What was it that I experienced? The better I can understand it and the more tools I have available to me, the more empowered I am to do something about it. I am not at the mercy of my experience. I am in control of this experience. I can shape it. There were uncontrollable things that happened, but I'm at the steering wheel. I decide where the story goes from here, and I decide how I react to additional uncontrollable things that come my way. So, the more empowered we are, the more control we have, and healthy control. Okay, not nitpicking control, not suffocating control. It's something so much more beautiful. It's empowerment. It's the idea that the bird sits on a twig or sits on a branch fearlessly, not because their trust is in the branch, but because the bird can fly. It doesn't matter what happens with the branch. The bird is so confident in their own wings that they can sit there confidently. Whatever happens, I trust my wings. That's what we're going for here. Okay. And so, with that in mind, where was I going with that? What was my train of thought? My train of thought hops off the tracks on a regular basis. Where were we going? There we go. So we're talking about shape. We're here to transform, okay? And when we take ownership, when we develop that confidence in essentially our wings, whatever happens to the branch that we're sitting on at the time, then we can start to go, right, so my experiences didn't devalue me in any way. They didn't increase my value either. My experiences I've maintained my value, the same value. I was the same wonderful person the whole way along. I may have taken damage. I may have caused damage. I may be responsible for making terrible choices. I may have made wonderful choices in there. All the way through that, my value stayed the same. And as we develop that place of confidence and then go, right, okay, but I've been through some stuff. So what do I do with that? We learn to see the value in it. We learn to see how that's empowered us. We learn to grab a hold of that confidence and then start communicating it to other people, using that to open doors of opportunity for ourselves. Because the things that feel like they've done the most damage can also be the exact same things that rocket you forward in your life, helping you to achieve the things that matter to you most. Instead of holding you back, they were learning opportunities. You were put into an intense, hands-on life experience, learning and growth opportunity. But it's learning how to see that that's what was happening or see what you took away from that so that you can go and start doing things like telling a school, this is what I learned from this awful experience. Telling an employer, I gained this experience. This is the knowledge. These are the skills. These are the tools that I have now. And increasing your value exchanges. I have so much value to offer because of who I am and all these other things that I bring with me now. And then other people tend to go, well, the nature of value exchanges is that if you bring all of this, we want to give all of this. Okay. So, transformations, this entire session, this entire series that we're a part of, this entire space and package bundle that we have through Open Door Development is about that larger process and all the wonderful things that can be achieved through it. But in this particular contained session, we're going to do a mini version of that larger process, okay, and provide you with some encouragement because is transformation possible? You bet. We're just about to do it. So, here we go. I want to introduce you to the source material for this particular exercise. So this comes from The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. This originally came out around 2002. And so Rick Warren, pastor of a church down in the southern states. And when this came out, it was like wildfire. The way that it resonated with people were really hungry for a message like what he had in this book here. Now, I'm going to grab something from the shelf behind me here. Here's another one for you to know about. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. We're going to circle back around to this on another day. But taking a look at logotherapy, man's search for meaning, for purpose, this resonated. So logotherapy, helping people to find meaning and purpose in the midst of suffering, and as well in life in general. So this theme, this idea, finding purpose, finding meaning, especially in the face of suffering, this is a very human thing to do. And what I really like about the content that I found here, Rick Warren in one chapter, it's just this very subtle chapter. It's, an entire collection of how many sections are there? Give me just 1 second. Table of contents says there are 40 days. Right, there we go. So it's a 40-day process. There's one chapter out of 40 that touches on the concept of shape. And when I saw that, good grief. So working in leadership development, working in team building, having seen any number of personality indexes and things that help to identify strengths, you've got your Myers-Briggs, you've got your true colors, all these different things. They all have their place. They all have strengths. But when I came across this concept of shape, I knew, Rick Warren, you are on to something. You have nailed something down that gives people insight into themselves. This is incredible. So at the time, way back around 2002, I adapted his materials. So I want you to know everything here, source material, Rick Warren original credit for the shape concept. I developed a leadership tool that was based on the concept of shape and doing it as an intuitive exercise. And I want you to know that Rick Warren got so much feedback. It did resonate. He was onto something. There are there's an entire realm of purpose-driven life, shape, leadership tools, shape, self-reflection tools that are available. And so I do want you to know that please, go and look at all those different things. The exercise that we are going to do here today, again, was something that I adapted from the original source material. It's going to look different from the shape materials that are available from the publisher and from the original author. And that's okay. Those things can exist in the same space. I want you to know what you are able to explore. Okay. And so here today, we're going to do what's called an intuitive exercise. And first of all, that's one of the reasons why I love this approach. A lot of indexes, a lot of tests, people answer questions, but it's sort of based on logical information. What is my logical answer to this question? And then the test tells me who I am. The test tells me what my strengths are. It can be insightful. Okay, it can be really helpful. So, again, I'm not disparaging or putting down any of those tests. The more that you can do, the more insights that you can gain. But you have to hold the answers softly, even with this one that we're about to do. Don't grab onto the answers. That's who I am. Just look at it and go, okay, it suggests that I'm this. That's worth consideration. I'd like to understand myself better. Let me bounce it off of other people that I know. Do you think I'm this? Get sounding boards, process it further. But an intuitive exercise doesn't ask for things from outside of yourself. Okay. It takes into consideration things from outside of yourself, but it asks you to listen to hear. Intuition, I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to listen to what surfaces from inside. Okay. You're about to have a conversation with yourself and we're going to see what surfaces. So, having said that, I'm going to pull up a visual here for you. There we go. And as we share that and get that fired up, I have here understanding your shape. And I'm trying out some new tools here. So I'm just going to see if I can adjust my window here. And thank you for your patience just because I am trying out some new settings to try and get window in window. Okay, well, we'll keep working on that. I don't like the position of that. I want to encourage anybody who's trying out a project, you have an idea, please jump into it. Please don't hold back and wait until you've got all the settings and everything absolutely perfect. There are things that you have to figure out along the way, and that's okay. So you're going to see things transform here in how the sessions are presented. So I've got my window in window now, but I'm going to keep working on those settings. So here we go. Understanding your shape. SHAPE is an acronym. It has 5 different parts to it: spiritual gifts, your heart, your abilities, your personality, and your experiences. And whatever your faith background is, whatever scientific theories you subscribe to, I want you to know that Rick Warren, his tool, The Purpose Driven Life, was very much from a Christian lens or a Christian perspective. This particular adaptation of this tool takes into consideration broader faiths, broader beliefs. So, just whatever your faith background is or is not, whatever your scientific theories are, psychological theories are that you subscribe to, this is intended for exploration for everybody and respectful exploration for everybody. So, taking a look at, first of all, the concept of spiritual gifts. So, what does that mean, especially if you feel, okay, no, I don't think there's a God. I don't think there is a spiritual realm. I think, this physical thing that's here, that's all that there is. How on earth then is it possible to talk about spiritual gifts? Spiritual gifts in this particular case, what we're going to take a look at is the concept of, well, there is something about you that isn't this, the body. And so, one of the things that you hear me say regularly in the sessions, because it matters, is this concept of, well, you don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. It is really important to recognize that there is a distinction between this and the thing that animates this, that brings life to this, because whatever our faith, whatever scientific theories we subscribe to, if you speak to someone who works around death, and I really encourage you to do that at some point, it's very eye-opening. Speak to somebody who spends time around death, and they will be able to tell you that when somebody dies, the thing that makes them them, it's not there anymore. So there is something that we have that people who work with death, around death, recognize, yeah, it's separate from the physical. That's what we're talking about. You might recognize it as your soul, spiritually. You might recognize it as your soul, energy. You might recognize it as your core self. However you want to see that, here's what I want you to do as an intuitive exercise. I want you to pause and ask yourself, what are my spiritual gifts? And here's how you're going to start identifying them. You may have one, you may have multiple, but the idea is that every single person has them. And if you didn't realize that you had one, you have it. Now you're going to start paying attention and now you're going to start looking for when you do something. Here's how to recognize a spiritual gift. When I do this thing, other people come to life. Okay. I'll give you an example, singing. There are some people, they sing beautifully. They have studied, they have done all the vocal exercises, they are amazing technical singers. And yet, when they perform, people clap politely. We all recognize that was wonderful, good for you, wonderful singing. There are other people who are off key, they warble when they sing. Technically, it's nowhere near what the other person is capable of doing. And yet, when they start to sing, people stop what they're doing. When they start to sing, the space becomes more calm. When they start to sing, if somebody hears it, they walk in off the street. They are drawn to that sound. When you do something and you see other people start to come to life, become more calm, turn their attention, and just something about what you were doing, they are drawn to it. That's an excellent clue that this is a spiritual gift for you. And please don't go, well, that can't be a spiritual gift because that's nothing. Like all I do is clean. There are people who clean spaces in a way that it's not just, a hygiene thing, but that when people come there, they feel safe and they feel loved. And I want to really clarify that because there are public bathrooms that are cleaned and it's just clean. And there are other places where there's something about the intention that they pour into the job of keeping that space clean, that when people go there, they feel safe and loved. There was something about this space that said, I have value. There was a spiritual gift of caring for a space, even though it was scrubbing a toilet. Pay attention to when people are thankful, when people are drawn in, when people become calm. You have a spiritual gift, and that is a clue, okay, to your meaning, to your purpose, hey, to where you're going to find a lot of fulfillment in life. And so that's our first place to start. What do you do that brings other people to life? Next thing, taking a look at your heart. What do you have a heart for? And here's an excellent way to identify what stands out to you. Okay. If you had $1 million that was not for you, very specifically, this is not intended to be kept by you. You can have another $1 million. This $1 million that you have been given is very specifically intended to go to something that you have a heart for, someone that you have a heart for. If you had $1 million to give away, where would that money go? And when you listen to yourself and intuitively, whatever surfaces, that tells you so much about your heart. Okay. When I have a room full of people and I'm able to start crowdsourcing and find out, what are they? What are they? Okay. What do you have a heart for? What do you have a heart for? And in the space, what do you have a heart for? Put it out there. So when I've got somebody who's saying, okay, well, my grandmother, she has all of this debt and I don't want her to die with that debt. I would pay off her debts for her. Somebody else says, okay, well, the environment, there needs to be all this cleanup and protection. I would go put all of that towards saving the environment. Somebody else says, oh, I would put that towards protecting animals. Somebody else says, well, I would put that towards food programs and make sure that everybody is well fed. Another person says, I put it into education and making sure that books are in school libraries. Kids need to be able to read, and on and on and on and on. And what's absolutely fascinating is that as you learn the hearts of all the different people in a space, what's your heart? What's your heart? Start sharing it. What we see is that we complement each other. Okay. We don't all have the same heart for the same thing. And that's amazing. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we don't all have the same heart for the same thing, because can you imagine if we all had the same heart for making sure that food was available to everybody, what would happen to the environment? Okay, what would happen to people with very unique health needs? If we were all very passionate about this very specific health need, we all had a heart for that. Well, then what happens for the people who need food? We would see resources channeled in such a concentrated way to such a small number of needs that so many others would be left adrift without the support that they need. When we have different hearts, we see certain needs in the world and it activates us to go take action. Okay. And the end result is that if we recognize my heart's different from yours, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, it means we can have peace and confidence. I don't have to be the person who fixes everything. I don't have to be the person who solves all the world's problems. I can't possibly do that. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I can go, you know what? My heart tunes my eyes to see these very specific things. And when I see them, I'm going to act. And because I see this corner of the world and I'm taking care of it, you don't have to worry about it. I've got it. And while I focus on this, I don't have to worry about all the other stuff because I know that you've got it. Our hearts are beautiful, beautiful things. They complement each other. They're not in competition with each other. Okay. And so, just for anybody here who's ever felt pressure, there's so many things asking for your money. You're going, I don't have enough, and how am I supposed to? A thing that you can do is recognize your heart, put your resources towards that, and then when other people ask for things, ask for your money, your time, your resources, you can simply let them know there are other things that I support. So, no, I will not be giving my time. No, I will not be giving my money. I have other things that I support, but I wish you well. Okay. And so you can support them with, I in spirit support what you are doing, but it doesn't match up with my heart, and my resources are going to go towards my heart because there are other people with a heart for what you are doing, and it's okay if I'm not one of those people. Okay, release that pressure from yourself, lift that off, throw it away. So, your heart, what matters to you? Where would that $1 million go? Okay. Abilities, what are the things that you do well? And so, abilities and spiritual gifts are separate things because if spiritual gifts are the things that, bring people to life around you, abilities are different. They can overlap, but they're different in that this is asking, what do you naturally do really well? Okay. So, your abilities are the things that either when you tried it, you were immediately clearly good at it. So maybe people were just like, whoa, you did that for the first time and that was a lot better than you should have been for a beginner. That's a clue about your abilities. If you get going and people go, okay, yeah, like you were very clearly a beginner, but that was a strong start. It's a clue to your abilities. If you have something that when you put in effort, you get better at it much faster than the average person. They put in a week of practice, they make this much progress. You put in a week of practice, you get this much progress. That's a really good sign. This is something that's more natural. It is an ability that you have, and it's a clue. So it might be something related to learning, to building. You may just understand chemistry. There's something about the table of elements where you're just like, well, this just makes sense. Somebody else is going, I had to study the ever living heck out of it. And you're going, what do you mean? Like it's the table of elements, like this, it just makes sense. You have an ability, okay? And so whatever it is that you are drawn to, knowledge-based, skills-based, you do it well, effort, intention results in much larger outcomes than the average person. That's a clue for you. So start making a list. What are the things I naturally do really well? What are the things that when I put action, intention, training into them, I make a lot of progress really fast? They're clues, okay? Your personality, taking a look at what words do people frequently use to describe you? Do you frequently get described as energetic? Do you frequently get described as encouraging? Do you frequently get described as musical? Whatever it is, pay attention to those descriptors. Think about yourself, what would I describe myself as? Okay. And as part of reflecting on your personality, I want you to take a moment to consider introversion and extroversion. Where do you get your energy from? So many people judge themselves based on not wanting to go to social events, feeling like, I'm tired of sitting around, I just need to go out, but it meant that I didn't get this thing done. We can judge ourselves and sometimes make poor choices just because we didn't understand where our sense of energy was coming from as far as refilling our batteries and feeling really good about taking on the next thing that life is asking of us. Introversion and extroversion often get mistaken for being, well, you're either outgoing or you're shy. That is not what it is about at all. Understanding introversion and extroversion is more about understanding when you feel exhausted. Where do you get more resources from? Do you get more resources from being around other people? Does that recharge you by being around your fellow humans? Or do you recharge by getting away from your fellow human beings? You do better with more space. Okay. So the fascinating thing about that is that you can then have people who love people, but they recharge by getting away from them. Okay. So I absolutely fall into that category. I love people, absolutely love them, love talking to them, meeting them, hearing their stories, having a good time with them. People are exhausting. And when I've spent time with people, I afterwards need a cup of tea and nobody to talk to me. I need space. I can actually feel the sense of like if a vampire had been sucking my blood, that's what it was like being around human beings. My life force has been drained. Get away from me. I need to retreat. I am very much an introvert. I recharge by getting away from people despite the fact that I love them and am quite comfortable in front of a crowd. Okay. So somebody else may be very quiet, but they recharge by being around people. They go to Starbucks. I want to be in my own living room, sitting on my couch with a blanket and a cup of tea, okay? Or sitting outside somewhere in a quiet spot with a nice view. But other people go, no, to recharge, even if they're quiet. They go to Starbucks and they enjoy their tea in the midst of a busy crowd because that's how they recharge. For some people, it is parties. It's much more social. It's much more bright and loud, the music, the dancing. But it's not so much about whether it's loud, it's about being around the people. Where do you get your energy from? So, your personality. How do other people describe you? How would you describe yourself? Try to identify how do you recharge? Am I an introvert or an extrovert? That explains so much about my drive for when I'm exhausted, what I'm trying to do so I can gain more resources. And I will just note in there, please take note if anybody is using words to describe you that are disparaging in some way. And there's two different scenarios here I just want you to make note of so that you can process and come back to this idea. One, if the things that people describe you as are stupid, idiot, worthless, useless, all of those things, that is not you. I want to identify that when anybody ever describes you in that way, the problem is them, not you. Okay. You can have other people who maybe there is an issue. You're not handing in things on time. It's causing a lot of pressure and stress for other people. But instead of saying to you, you don't hand things in on time, it's causing incredible distress for the rest of your team and we're angry about it, which is discussing the issue. What they're doing is saying you're useless, describing you as a person rather than describing the issue. So one of the tools that you can use is go back to people and say, you know what, you've been calling me this. I don't like being called that. I would like to understand what the issue is. You're calling me something. What is it that I am doing that is resulting in you using that word? Get the clarification because then you can start dealing with the issue and not take ownership of words like useless or whatever else it is. Don't see yourself as that, okay? It's describing you instead of the issue. Find out what the issue is, okay? Do not let arrows like that stick in you. If you have taken on any of those words, especially, good Lord, if you had a parent that's incredibly painful, a parent or another important figure in your life use those kinds of disparaging words, absolutely you need to heal, taking the arrows out, recognizing, no, maybe there was an issue and maybe the issue was them or theirs. It's not me, okay? There's a healing process that needs to happen. That's too large to unpack in this particular session today, but it's something to be aware of and to circle back to, okay? Another thing I want to put on your radar is please, if anybody is describing you as an asshole, okay? If somebody is using words to describe you that suggest this is uncomplimentary character, and especially if, okay, well, to the point where it's suggestive that you are hurting other people, that you are unpleasant to be around, I do want you to note that, okay? And especially if it's a joke, please recognize that while things like that might be said to you in a joking manner, on some level, it's also not a joke. Okay, the fact that it got brought up at all is worth really paying attention to and noting and starting to unpack. Yeah, people were laughing when they said it, but why was it said at all? And just take some time to recognize, yeah, where did that come from? Okay, there can be any number of things that hide in plain sight, things that need to be worked on, things that need to be healed or addressed or held accountable, boundaries that you might need in place, expectations that you might need to rise to the occasion to meet. The bar is here and somehow you've ended up down here or lower. Please pay attention to those kinds of descriptors and have a conversation with yourself, just starting to unpack and understand where might that be coming from. Maybe it's not a joke. Let's explore that further. There's lots that can be talked about in that personality realm. Those are just conversation starters, conversations with ourselves, conversations with others. The point is start the conversation. Okay. So there's our launching point talking about personality. And then the final category that we see here is experiences. And this very much so is what this entire mental health and well-being learning transformation series is all about. All the resources that we have available to you here. It's about this, taking a look at what you have been through, what you have navigated, the health conditions that you've developed, the health conditions you were born with, the trauma that you have survived, and the place that it's left you in that you are navigating right now. It can be so easy to look at our experiences and say to ourselves, well, it's done, it's over with. So, like, what's the point? It's in the past. Well, the thing is that experience has shaped you in some way. It has taught you in some way. There are things you learned in that period that have carried over to the now. So it isn't just the past, it's part of your story. The point isn't to treat it like something that you drove past a long time ago and it doesn't matter anymore. We're treating it as something that is integrated into a larger piece, a larger story that is your life and is who you are. So it doesn't control who you are, but it has contributed to who you are. It's worth acknowledging and worth understanding and exploring further. So, your experiences of your health, navigating your life, your relationships, what are the things that you have been through? What are the things that were amazing? You can celebrate that this is a part of your life. I went on this trip. I had this relationship. I had this, what are the things that you just recognize that friendship was just, transformative in that time and life-giving in that time? Going on this trip, I gained this insight. It was hard, but it was just expanding in some way. What are the experiences that you can celebrate? And then what are the experiences that you mourn? What were the losses? What were the things that, no, like you have wounds, you recognize, figuratively, you still carry your intestines on the outside of your body because you are just so incredibly in pain. This was eviscerating, and I'm still piecing myself back together. All of the experiences, what has happened to you in your lifetime. When you take a look at that package, ask yourself, what are my notable life experiences, and start writing those down. Here's something fascinating that starts to happen because we're looking at them, because we're acknowledging them. We're not, again, treating it like something we drove past, years ago. Who cares about that random sign beside the road that I'm never going back to ever again? I'm going that way. That's not what that is. It's a chapter in your story. It is part of the book that travels with you. It is part of the painting, the mosaic, that when you look at it, you can't look at the whole thing without taking in this portion over here. Okay, all of those things, you learned something. You gained experience of some kind. You grew in some way. And pretty much because you had no choice. You are a human being with a brain, and your brain engages in an incredible, incredible process called neuroplasticity. So, neuroplasticity is the act of building new neural pathways in response to whatever you give your attention to, whatever you give your attention to, your intention to. Your brain recognizes, well, that must be important. And so I'm going to get better at it. And it fires up this process going, well, if you're giving your intention and attention to math, this must be important. I'm going to get better at math. Hey, you were giving your attention and intention to soothing this infant. That must be important. Okay. And you start getting better at it. Those neural pathways, it's like a bush that's growing out. It's phenomenal, this constant growth process. And then your brain also comes along and does something called neural pruning. So the pruning process is coming along and chemically going, well, we've got a lot of growth going on here, but just like a bush, if you just leave it, it grows out of control. And it actually, it loses strength if it just is allowed to go completely wild. So we don't want that. The pruning process, in nature, animals come and prune by eating, and that keeps the plants healthy. When there's other life around, then the bush is healthier because it's pruned back by animals. In gardens, humans do it by bringing along their pruning shears, cut back, and then it grows back stronger, healthier. And that's what happens in our brain. When our brain does a pruning process and we temporarily lose things going, I feel like I forgot something, but I don't know what. We lose part of ourselves temporarily going, I feel like something changed, but I don't know what. And there's just sort of the sense of loss or something missing, and we can't put our fingers on it. Pruning. Okay, in our teenage years, there's a massive pruning process that happens, a sense of loss of self and rebuilding that. And the really fascinating thing, and I think the calming thing to understand about that process, is that when pruning happens, your brain wasn't cutting back those parts because they were bad. Your brain was doing a healthy process of making you stronger. And please remember this, making you more of your wonderful self. When we have that sense of loss and loss of sense of self and forgetting important things, instead of seeing it as a like, oh my goodness, there's something wrong with me and I'm broken. No, you are so wonderful. Your brain is taking a look at how to make you more of that wonderful thing, that wonderful self, that wonderful being. You're good at this. So we're going to trim it back so you can get better. You have this personality that's wonderful and you're living that intentionally. We're going to trim some of that back so that you can become more of that in a stronger, healthy way, okay? So neuroplasticity combined with pruning and is happening nonstop. This is an ongoing process. You are a learning and growth machine. It is what you are, just absolutely inherently. You do it. You don't even have to try. But when you do try, when you show up, when you're present, we did that at the beginning, when you are present, and then you lean into, I want to grow, I want to do this on purpose, some really wild things start to happen. Okay. And so that's what we're doing here. We're learning on purpose. We're taking a look at transforming ourselves from being on autopilot to being intentional. We're transforming ourselves from seeing ourselves as just existing to knowing that there is purpose, there is meaning, but it takes being curious and engaging with that and asking questions of ourselves, of others, to really start to identify what that meaning and purpose is, and then to live that out intentionally. And so, just from here, I encourage you, keep the conversation going with yourself, with other people. Go from here and find out from other people. I was wondering, like, how would you describe me? Start finding out those personality traits. When you think about like things I do that other people respond really well to, they seem to come alive. Like, does anything come to you? Oh my goodness. Have you ever noticed that when you get your sounding boards going, go from here, do more research, and just be encouraged that when you live life on purpose for all the painful parts of it, for all the mental health issues that we can be navigating, for all the pain and stress, as that mental health is expressing itself in our bodies. We might be navigating rashes, insomnia, digestive issues. We might be having headaches, any number of different problems. As all of that plays out, there are things that you do that nobody else can do the way that you do. There are things about who you are. There's not a single human being, present, past, future, who is able to replace what you bring. There's too many factors. You are unique. And so there's something in this world that you can do that nobody else can do. And I encourage you to go from here to own that and then look for, what does your heart show you today? What stands out in the world? Where are you needed? Take those little actions and go be that wonderful person. As you are being transformed, go out and transform what is around you as well. When people come alive, really beautiful things happen, and we need more people coming alive. So go out today and be one of those people. And I encourage you, keep coming back, keep showing up. However you grew today, there's more growth waiting for you. Lifelong learning, that's what we want to practice here. So I encourage you, keep showing up. Please let other people know about our learning series here and how they can get registered. And I'm hoping that you have a fabulous, phenomenal day. Wishing you all the best.